Roger Stone was treated very unfairly. Roger Stone was brought into this witch hunt, this whole political witch hunt, and the Mueller scam. It's a scam because it's been proven false. And he was treated very unfairly, just like General Flynn is treated unfairly, just like Papadopoulos was treated unfairly. They've all been treated unfairly. And what I did, I will tell you this. People are extremely happy because in this country they want justice. And Roger Stone was not treated properly. So I'm very happy with what I did.
President Trump, on commuting Roger Stone's sentence, the president's late Friday move to reward his longtime friend is drawing plenty of fire as well, including the first public statement from Robert Mueller in more than a year. In a Washington Post essay, Mueller defended his Russia investigation and Stone's prosecution. Quote, "When a subject lies to investigators, it strikes at the core of the government's efforts to find the truth and hold wrongdoers accountable. Because his sentence has been commuted, he will not go to prison, but his conviction stands." And we are joined now by the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff. Chairman Schiff, thank you for joining us this morning. Stone was convicted in part for false statements he made to your committee. What's your response to the president?
I think anyone who cares about the rule of law in this country is nauseated by the fact that the president has commuted the sentence of someone who willfully lied to Congress, covered up for the president, intimidated witnesses, obstructed the investigation. It shouldn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican. This should be offensive to you if you care about the rule of law and you care about justice. Let's remember, George, that Roger Stone was the intermediary. He was the link between Donald Trump and the Trump campaign and Russian intelligence, the same Russian intelligence unit that hacked Donald Trump's opponents' emails. He was the link with their cutout, WikiLeaks, as well, through which they published these. And Donald Trump was desperate to get his hands on these emails. He urged the Russians to hack Hillary's emails. He touted them when they did, over 100 times on the campaign trail. He thought they were central to his victory. And this effort to get and use foreign assistance is what Roger Stone had information on. And he lied to cover up and protect the president. And the president, through this commutation, is basically saying, if you lie for me, if you cover up for me, if you have my back, then I will make sure that you get a get-out-of-jail-free card. Other Americans, different standard. Friends of the president's, accomplices of the president, they get off scot-free.
What, if anything, though, can you do about it? I know Speaker Pelosi has said the House will move legislation to ensure that no president can pardon or commute the sentence of someone who's trying to shield the president. But even if the House passes it, it's not going in the Senate, anywhere in the Senate right now. And wouldn't it likely be found unconstitutional if it became law?
Well, there are things that we can do to discourage the abuse of the pardon power, the commutation power. I introduced a bill months ago, for example, that would say that if the president pardons someone in a case in which they're a witness, subject, or target, the complete investigative files in that case will be provided to Congress so that Congress can evaluate whether this is yet another act of obstruction of justice. So that we can do. But you point out a very important problem, George, which is responsible in part for the commutation of this sentence, and that is Republicans won't stand up for the rule of law, won't stand up for the independence of the Justice Department. It shouldn't matter, but this was a Republican-led investigation that Roger Stone lied to. The committee was then chaired by a Republican. And here you have no more than a couple Republicans willing to say a single word about someone who came in before Congress and lied to them, intimidated witnesses and obstructed them. And why? Because he did it to cover up for a president of their party. This is the distinction between now and Watergate. The Republicans at that time would not have stood for this, and Nixon understood that. But Donald Trump understands that he has these Republicans cowed. They won't stand up to him. They won't defend the rule of law. And that means that we will have to wait until next year to pass this legislation to discourage further abuses of the pardon or commutation powers.
Of course, the other possible remedy is impeachment. I want to actually bring out a quote from James Madison, 1788 Constitutional Convention, talking about the president's pardon power. He said, if the president be connected in any suspicious manner with any person and there be grounds to believe he will shelter him, the House of Representatives can impeach him. They can remove him if found guilty. Now, you still have the same issue with Republicans now being opposed to impeachment, but is this an impeachable offense?
It's an impeachable offense if you abuse the pardon power to protect yourself from criminal liability. But again, George, if the Republicans won't even say a word, of course, they're not going to vote to impeach and convict. We already presented a case with overwhelming evidence, and they refused to convict then. And indeed, of course, during that impeachment, we warned that if they left him in office, knowing that he'd committed impeachable offenses, that the damage he could do between now and Election Day could be severe. And here we are now, 130,000 Americans dead. We had no idea just how bad the damage would be, but nonetheless, we knew the damage would be grave.
Your colleague Hakeem Jeffries has said the president and Stone can still be indicted once Donald Trump leaves office. Should Joe Biden ask his attorney general to take that step if he indeed does become president?
You know, that will be a decision I think that Joe Biden will have to make, considering the circumstances in the country at that time. I don't envy the difficulty of that decision. But, you know, for example, if you just look at the campaign fraud scheme, the president was involved. The Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney's Office indicted Michael Cohen for being directed and coordinated to commit this fraud scheme. Well, the individual number one who did the directing and coordinating was the President of the United States. The Justice Department thought that Michael Cohen should go to jail for that. What's the argument not to have the person who did the directing and coordinating go to jail? But that'll be a decision Joe Biden will have to make.
Finally, I do want to talk about this COVID crisis. You're from Los Angeles, one of the hot spots right now in the country. And there's more talk about a possible another stimulus package coming in the House later this month. Are you confident you can get something done before the House goes on recess? And what more do we need to do to get this virus under control?
We have to get something done. We need to ramp up our testing and our tracing. We need the ability to treat those who get sick and to isolate those who carry the virus. And we need to help Americans who are really suffering and hanging on right now by a thin financial thread. That is likely to get worse. Unemployment compensation in terms of the federal extended benefits are going to be cut off. The aid to businesses, small businesses may be cut off if the Republicans still refuse to act. Now, will they continue in the face of such misery and disease and death? Refuse to act? I certainly hope not. I think they will be compelled to, but I think they're going to do far too little given the economic circumstances and given this dire health threat to the American people. So I'm desperately concerned as you hear from the health experts. I'm concerned that the Republicans in Congress will not rise to the challenge of this virus, and we will have more economic suffering and more death than necessary. It didn't have to be this way, but both the combination of the president's incompetent response and the Republican unwillingness to step up the plate and provide the resources for a fulsome answer to that virus has left us where we are.
Chairman Schiff, thanks very much for your time this morning. Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.